In that moment, I was like, I would rather die.
Yeah.
I would rather have died. What just came out of my mouth? It just kept breaking the structure after structure until we're at the pyramid, until I'm in bed with his wife. That sounds terrible, but you know, like every structure that could have been broken that night. And I kept thinking, I'm done. I'm done. And I'm like, oh, that's what's happening in the world. We keep thinking, oh, we've gotten to this place, and then like another almost invisible structure is in place that you didn't realize is keeping you from being free.
Welcome to Beyond the Veil, stories of twin flames, divine union, and mystical encounters. Sit back, relax, and listen to your story today. My guest today is one of my very best friends, Cari Rose, and she's a transformational leadership coach and all-around magical being. And she's here to tell us her story today. Hi, Cari.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here.
So happy.
Yeah.
And this is Cari's first time telling her story publicly, and so this is going to be really exciting.
Yeah. And this is the most perfect divine place to do it because of, I don't know if you remember, because I told you the story right after it happened.
Yeah, I remember.
And you were in it. So
I remember. So I'm so excited to hear it in its entirety again. And when you're not on the road driving.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead and tell us your story.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So this, I'm going to give some context because it's all kind of woven into that magical night. But so it began with, I had a teacher, and I'm not going to name names. Perfect. So let's call her Elizabeth. I had a teacher named Elizabeth who I so admired and was the spiritual teacher of mine as well as like business and everything. And I had found her in this magical way and signed up for her program, even though I didn't really need it at the time, but I just had this call to sign up with her. And it was amazing. And when we had our one-on-one session, I felt this deep call that she was the one to ask about doing a deep, like vision quest type of journey. I have done different types of journeys, you know, ceremonial, like plant medicine type of journeys. You and I have done some together, and you know, we've had those experiences. And I had gotten to a place where the medicine was calling me in a different way, and it was saying those types of ceremonies you're done with, and the medicine now it just needs to be this really pure. And it was specifically psilocybin. Like ayahuasca wasn't calling me, it was specifically this. And I didn't know anyone who did that specifically, and I also knew it had to be someone just so divine, so in their integrity. And you know, sometimes that's hard to find in this space. And so I had the calling to ask Elizabeth, and I had heard her one time, I think, say something about her dad does things like this, but I didn't know. But I knew she was the one to ask because I knew she had done some of the same work. And so when I asked her, she immediately said, oh, you're supposed to do a journey with my dad. And she didn't talk about this publicly at all at the time. And she said he has this incredible space in Mount Shasta. And I hadn't been there before, but I knew all of the things about it. And him and his wife sing to the medicine. They grow it themselves. It is so sacred. It is so beautiful. He's been doing this for over 40, 50 years. He's comes from the original like Maria Sabina lineage. This is like indigenous ceremony. This isn't what, you know, where you're just talking to each other and having kind of a joint party with different people. This is an indigenous ceremony. This is serious work. And I was, yes. So she said, let's keep talking. And that kind of was the end of it. It actually took another whole 6 months or so before it came up again. And she goes, oh, let me connect you. And so she sends an email and says, Dad, this is my friend, Cari. And she says, this is my dad. And she says his name. And let's just, for the sake of this, call him Robert. This is my dad, Robert. And as soon as I see that email, because she had not told me his name yet, that is my stepdad's name.
Oh my gosh.
And where a lot of my childhood, my trauma, my core wound started, right? And I knew immediately, oh my gosh, this is all divinely orchestrated. Like, this is going to be big. Because I always say in this work, in all of the spiritual work, a lot of times it's so literal. It's right under your nose what you're supposed to do next. And it was just right under my nose in that case. So it was that moment of, oh, there's something big happening here. And so I get in touch with him. We set a date. We just set a date. It was during kind of the end, during COVID, but people were starting to kind of pick back up again. And so we set a date for August 13th. And he said, actually, you're going to be the first one doing a journey in our space since COVID, because his wife had some health issues. They had kind of shut it down for a couple years. So you'll be reopening the space with us. And I knew I had a deep, deep call and intuition to do this by myself. I knew that from the beginning. This is a solo quest, and they do a lot of groups and different things, but I just knew this was solo. So we had a couple talks about it, and he's a man of very few words. So it was so interesting. It was just a little bit of prep, a little bit of, here's what you do, here's what you wear. And I asked him, is it just psilocybin, or are there other medicines that you weave in? And his answers were always like this: the teachers need no assistance. They were always this like guru, a guy, like very short, like this is, and so I knew, I just knew it was him. It was such a resonance. I knew it. So that was that. Now, as we got closer to the journey, I didn't even realize I was doing it, just started eating cleaner. I was just treating my body differently. I don't drink a lot, but it was just, I didn't want it at all. And I'm really in tune with what my body's wanting. I didn't really even realize this was happening until I really looked back on everything afterwards. And I realized now I was really cleansing the vessel. I was cleansing. I was mostly eating plant, but it was just so interesting looking back on all those things that were happening in my body. And I also knew that the entire trip to Shasta also had to just be mine. So because I was thinking about bringing a friend or bringing Steve and I just knew this is just for me. It's a solo, my first time going up there. I'm going to meet the mountain, and it's just this, there's just something just for
so
me.
Brave.
And this is what's strange. So many people at the time, I think was like, wow, you're doing this by yourself. And are you sure? And all the things. And it never felt brave to me. It just felt like a pull. It like, this has to happen. And everything was yes, yes, yes. And I never really even like thought about bravery or fear or anything. It was just yes, 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 yes. And I think what I know with any type of medicine like this is it calls you. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, I see this a lot when people are just so curious and they want to do this journey or that journey. And sometimes it can be magical, but many times they're not really getting what they would get if they waited for it to call you.
100%.
And I know you've seen that as well. And it felt like that. It felt a calling that I couldn't resist if I wanted to.
Wow.
And so I get this cut to, it's a month before my grandma passed away. My maternal grandmother passed away. And that was so difficult. It was, so many things came up for me. And a lot of what came up during that time was her and the women in my family have all been so mistreated by their spouses, by life, by whatever, and they've just accepted it. It's that martyr sort of way of being. And growing up, I always was closer with my grandfather or closer with them. I just never saw her as like, wow, I want to be just like that. And I had all these mixed feelings come up when she passed, because it was hard to kind of really come to terms with that. So that all happened in the month before. So flash forward, I get to Shasta, and I could spend the rest of this podcast talking about what happened before the journey in Shasta. That's how magical it was. It was every moment, every night was a journey of its own. I went like 2 nights before the journey, and everything was just a magic, pure magic. The second I landed and drove in and just got there and met the mountain and all of the downloads and activations, it was magic. And it felt like, as well, like I was being treated like a queen, goddess coming in. I found this magical bed and breakfast. I didn't, like, all the meals, they magically just appeared, you know. They were like, oh, you're here, we're happy to have dinner, come eat with. Everything was just like, I was just enveloped in love and light and this energy of the mountain, really. And so it's the day of the journey, and I went to the mountain that morning, and I spent all morning, and I spent so much time in all the sacred sites where all of the ascended masters come through, and I felt so connected to Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, all of the divine goddesses, and the lineage, really, of the Rose just coming through. And my whole journey of my last name being Rose, becoming Rose, and becoming that was just so profound as I sat just in these places on the mountain and felt the energy just coming through me. And so then I go home to get ready for the journey, and all he had said was, wear white, it's casual, you know, you're going to be on a mat all night. So, you know, there's no one else there, just wear white and that's it. And yet I had heard, like, I heard you're going to meet a sacred teacher. Be like, prepare yourself, prepare the vessel. And it was like, I get teared up even now, because it was like so sacred. And I was watching myself in this little B&B get ready. And it's like, I'm gonna cry. I don't know why. Like, I didn't think this was the part I'd cry at. I knew there'd be tears today, but didn't think this would be the part. But it felt so profound, and I was almost having this weird out of body as I took a bath and, like, slowly shaved my legs, and, like, as if I was going on, like, my first date with someone, you know, like, safe places I would never shave. And as I, like, these are the earrings I wore. These were made by this, you know, Hopi tribe, and so sacred. Everything felt so sacred. I wore a white dress. I didn't plan on, you know, it was like I was like I was adorning myself, and I curled my hair. It was I'm going to lay on a mat on a mountain, right? And it just felt so sacred. And so I get so prepared, and I put on essential oils, all the things you can imagine. And I go to them, and, you know, early, so you get there before it's dark. But the journey, the way that he does it, doesn't start until the sun goes down. So I was there early enough to really, I had already gone once to see the grounds, and, you know, and I had met his wife, and she is just, the moment I met her, it was a recognition of, oh, we know each other, we know each other. And they're both in their 70s. They've both been doing this together. They met doing this together, you know, 40, 50 years ago. So they were just magical. But she was like, I'm so sad and sorry that I cannot sit with you in the journey space and ceremony, because she had had health issues and she had had a back surgery, so she couldn't do it with her back. She said, but I will be, you know, I'll be asleep, but I'll be holding space for you from the house, right? So how it's set up, and this is important for the story, is, you know, it's on like 40 acres of mountain, and their home is on that land, and it's a 2-story home, and then you walk, like, I don't know, up the mountain. I'm not good with this, but like 100 yards or something. You walk, it's a little walk up the mountain to the lodge. And the lodge is the ceremonial space. And it's an octagonal shaped room. And very simple, nothing fancy or ornate, very simple. And you walk outside and there's like an outdoor bathroom, like a full structure, but a bathroom outside. And in the space, you know, he's got his altar and her altar set up. And then I bring my own stuff to set up my altar as well. And their altars, he was showing me his altar and how it is, you know, here to really call in like the feminine energy that's really being called in right now. And he was really set it up in that way. And then, so their home, the lodge, and then when you go down in front of their home, because that's where you can see Mount Shasta, he had built a 7-foot tall jade marble pyramid. Wow. And it was just like nothing you've ever felt or seen. And around it was just this circle of rocks, of jade rocks. And it was just so special. And he said, you need to introduce yourself to the pyramid before we go into journey. You know, it'd be amazing for you to do that. And so I did, and I had this, you know, I was having this whole, he was kind of getting things set up, and I go and touch the pyramid, and it just felt powerful. I could just feel the magic and everything in that land, how infused it was, and with all of the love and magic and spirit, just pure spirit. So I am walking outside about to go into the lodge, about to enter the space, and I'm kind of just asking my guides, like one more little nudge sign to tell me that, you know, yes, like I'm safe, like this is okay. I was just starting to get a little bit of butterflies at that. That's the first time I felt any butterflies. And what I have known about any of this work is usually before something big, you get some butterflies. And so I knew that, and I was asking for any signs would be greatly appreciated in this moment as I'm walking in. And everything leading up to that, I had been doing like dragonfly meditations. There was like, the dragonfly was big in my energy that whole year leading up, with so many things that have happened. And right as I said that, a dragonfly comes in front of me and then just goes up and circles for, I'm not joking, 2 minutes straight, just circles and circles the whole space above. And it was just, thank you. And we're going into the evening. It just felt a weird time to see it. All of it was interesting. So I walk into the space, and, you know, we start to begin prepping for the ceremony. Again, it's so quiet. He's such a man of few words. But what he had told me is, in this ceremony, this isn't like some of the journeys that you've done. He knew that whole way of doing ceremony. And he said, you don't talk at all. You lie on your mat, and you let, you know, the teachers will take you where they want you to go, and you'll get everything you need. And I asked him, like, okay, you know, this is all so new to me. So I had asked him, do you take notes? Like, do I talk to you? So you don't talk to me. Okay, do you take any notes about what happened? No. And when I said, what if I don't remember? Oh, you'll remember. So it was very much that way. Everything was that, right? And he said, we integrate the next day, but, you know, you'll see me bringing out different tools. And he showed me he has a closet, and he said, if I need something different, you might see me go in and out of this closet, or notice me going in and out of this closet and bringing in something else, and tools as in shakers or crystals or whatever that might be. And so that's the prep. And that was it. You know, that's pretty much it. And he uses a pendulum to tell him to feel into how much medicine to give me. And what I didn't realize is, in this way of doing ceremony, he's on this big journey as well. Yep. So he also takes the medicine. So he gives us both, you know, I come to his altar, and it's this whole ceremony, and he gives me my medicine. He says, chew it slowly. And because, you know, as you're chewing it, it starts to kick in, and different things, you know, you're welcoming it in. And so I start one by one. And they're raw mushrooms, you know, they're dried raw mushrooms that they've prepared in all these ways. And I start to chew, and it took me a long time. I had no idea. I just was in full trust and surrender. It took me a long time to even ingest them all. And so I knew this was more than I've ever experienced because you and I had done meditative psilocybin journeys before. And remember when we realized that we were like,
we're on museum dose.
We were staying with it. We thought we were going so far out, and then we realized like we're within like the museum dose, which means you could go somewhere publicly and just be at a museum and be totally fine. And
we're like,
and that's one of the reasons too. I knew, wow, if I'm going beyond that, I really need to be in a space that feels like strongly held and magically supported. So, so I'm going in. So now I'm laying on my mat. You know, with a sleeping bag. You know, it's so funny. I'm all dressed up in the sleeping bag, makeup done. And I'm laying there and just kind of waiting. Okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And, you know, those, all the butterflies. And then I start to enter into the space. And what came through first, it was almost carnival-like, like circus-like. And it was like these clown faces and slides and different, like, it was like I was at a circus or a carnival is the only way I could explain it. It was weird and, you know, psychedelic. Like it was just weird. And I was going like, what is this? Like, what is this? My ego, my human was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And my ego's also going, I've told so many people that I'm coming to do this journey. And so I'm noticing, I'm like watching all this, right? What am I gonna say? I went to the carnival? Like, it took me to the circus. I don't understand what happened, and that's it. Because you have no concept of time when you're in that space. So I was like, 5 hours could have gone by, and I was at the carnival. And I learned, like, got nothing. I thought this has been the longest road to just go to a circus. And so this is happening. I'm at the carnival and I'm going, I just start saying, this is not what I came for. I came for love. I came for love. I came for love. I came for love. And all of a sudden, a sword comes in of light and just cuts through the carnival. And it was you. I was like, Kimber's here. Dun, 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 dun. It was and this sword of light, and it was rainbow light codes everywhere. It was like it cut through the carnival, and I just see rainbow light going all over and like just almost erasing it.
So amazing.
Oh my gosh.
For context, just like that has some reason. This is one of my soul contracts that I help people through medicine journeys etherically or come in people's dreams. So it's not surprising, but it's really cool.
Yes. And I
love that.
Yes.
And so magical.
It is so magical. And it was just comforting in the moment as well. And I was still going, what is happening? I did not understand, you know, you just don't understand.
Totally.
And I was still kind of in between just trying to analyze and like being fully in it. And so then I'm just sort of entering this space and I hear him. I had asked him if there would be music and he said, there's not music as you think of it, but you know, I'll whatever's needed will come into the space. I said, okay. So I hear him humming and it's like this, like a very deep male
I love that
voice humming, and I'm hearing this humming and I'm just, so beautiful and feeling light and feeling love and hearing this voice. And then I start to hear a woman's voice as well, harmonizing with him. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And I, for a moment, go, wait, is she here? Maybe his wife is here. And so I keep hearing this male and female voice in harmony, such beautiful harmony. And then I suddenly hear, Cari, go into your heart, stay quiet. Go into your heart, go inward. In my ear, he's saying this. And I realized in that moment, the female voice was mine.
Wow. Wow.
And I had no idea I was singing. And he was saying he was very clear, this is quiet. You're going in. This is not an outward journey. And so I'm hearing, you know, and so I'm going, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry. I've just disrespected, Elizabeth's dad and my, and this sacred space. And I'm, oh, what am I doing? Stop. And so I just go, okay, go into my heart. Of course. Then he's singing again, woman's voice singing. And I'm going, please don't let that be me this time. Please don't let that. Cari, go inward, he says again. I am like, what is happening? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So there's battle begins of something coming through me and him saying stop. And then my human going, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What have I done? Wow. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be, I'm the good girl. I follow the rules. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to break any rules here. And then this keeps happening. Wow. And I can start to hear him get angry. I can hear anger in his voice and in his tone. And I know I'm pushing it and I can't help it. And this is something I would never ever do. And all I can think is, oh my gosh, Elizabeth trusted me to be with her dad in this sacred space that she's never sent anyone personal, or especially like a client or something to. And here I am, like getting in a battle with him and disrespecting him. And I don't want to. This is not what I want. This isn't what I came for. What's happening? Why me? Why this? And it keeps happening. He's getting angrier and I can hear his tone getting angrier. And then all of a sudden he just yells, Cari, respect the beings that are here to support you. And I just heard it echo through the universe. I just heard an echo through the universe of his words. And this is such serious work and I'm taking it so seriously. And I just heard it echo and I said, yes, I just kept repeating it, respect the beings that are here to support you. And I went so deep inside in that moment and I really understood what that meant. And I saw my entire lineage. I saw all of the women and I saw my grandmother and my mom and my aunts and everyone that I had said, like, I don't respect. And it was like this moment of it's on their backs that I am who I am. And whatever they've sacrificed and whatever programs they were in or whatever they had, trauma they had, they're why I'm here. And it was just this deep respect for the beings that were here to support me and have supported me. And they're the reason I am an empowered woman that I am today and that I've had the healing I've had because of the things they've been through. And so it was this really beautiful moment that came from that, And so I was going, God, yes, wow, I got what I came for. That was beautiful. Okay, amazing. And then he, I start to hear him bringing in different tools, different things. He's doing the shakers, so it's, the shakers are coming in, and these different sounds are starting to come in, and the vibration of the space, and it's so beautiful. And I start to hear a chant. And I realized pretty quickly I'm the one saying it. Like there's a whisper chant coming through me. And like all I could think was, thank God it's a whisper. But it was Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light. Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light. And I had no idea what I was saying. And the tone of it was like almost like Shekinah, Shekinah, like a different language almost. And it was this chant going to his rattling. And I had no idea what it was or what it meant. It was coming through me and my whole body was starting to vibrate. And it keeps happening. And he's again, Cari. And I start to hear more song coming through. So it's going, Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light. And it's getting louder. It's getting louder. And finally he goes, okay, all right, just let her rip. Just get out what you need to get out. And I can hear he's exasperated. He's probably just like, at this point, like, what am I going to do with this girl? And he then just says, go, just go, whatever you need to do. And then, oh my goodness, this energy starts coming through me. Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light. And I'm singing it. I'm going, anchor in the light. And it's like coming through my body. I'm pulsating. I'm seeing light codes come through me into the ground, from the ground through me. I'm seeing all this happen and singing and pulsating. And then my grandmother comes in. And she comes in and she starts moving things around in my throat and my heart, and she's like pulling, almost like opening something, and she says, Cari Jane, Cari Jane, tonight I'm going to teach you how to sing. And she was a singer in her life, and she sang in a band with a bluegrass band with my grandfather, and then she sang for the church, and that was her gift in this life. And she starts to show me through almost visuals, and it was just visuals in a felt sense of her. She shows me, I didn't lead. I didn't have a voice in this life. I didn't have a voice in my life. And you saw that. And I'm sorry you had to see that. But when I did have a voice is when I sang. And then I saw all of the visuals of her singing with my grandfather and with all these men playing instruments. And she said, when I sang, that's when I led. That's when I led. And that's when I had my voice and everyone followed. And it was just like, my God, like, it was like, I just had so much like honor and respect for the gift she brought and what she did. And she showed me how she sang for the church and how she led and how people, sang with her, and her voice was of an angel. It really was. And it was with no training and nothing. It was just the voice of an angel. And so she's telling me, I'm going to teach you how to sing tonight. And as this whole thing is happening, and she says, Cari Jane, you keep singing. And as he's kind of telling me to be quiet, she's saying, Cari Jane, you keep singing. And you let it in, let it in. And she was saying, let it in, like something else was coming through me. And she was just kind of helping me with the instrument. And so I can feel, and I'm hearing voice, and I'm hearing, and suddenly this tune comes through me. And, I knew in the moment it was my soul song. And, they say in these indigenous cultures, you go on this vision quest, I think when you're 18. So, and you go into the mountains or the forest, and you don't come out until you hear your soul song.
Yes.
And it felt like I was receiving my soul song. Wow. And so much of my journey work and spiritual path has been this connection with my ancestors who were indigenous. My whole ancestry is Native American, indigenous. And so it was so beautiful because it was in that moment, this is my vision quest. I'm receiving my soul song. And the song was almost haunting. It was like, and it was kind of going like all of the range, like so it's just this tune that I'm seeing. When you're in that space, you start to feel color. Yes. And see sound, and it's called, what is it called?
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing the sound, I'm feeling the sound, I'm feeling colors. It was just this gorgeous filling of the room. Wow. And so, and at this point, I think he's kind of surrendered to, she's gonna sing. Apparently, she's gonna sing. And so I then, at some point, the chant, the song, it was all combining together into one, like Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light. Oh my gosh, wow. And it was just like, I heard it all at the same time, and it's coming through me. And then I suddenly hear, as my grandmother's opening up things, I suddenly hear, this is the divine feminine. Let her lead. So everything's coming through me in song, but that moment was like, oh, whoa. And I knew that voice was speaking to me and to him, both.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
And I almost it was confused at first, like, who's this for? And so that starts coming through, and then suddenly I'm standing up. Again, in this journey space, you're on your mat, you don't get up, you don't speak. All of this is not happening the way we planned. And I'm being loud in the middle of the forest at night. I know his wife is sleeping. I'm like, oh my gosh, what, my human is still kind of in this battle with like what is coming through me. So this keeps happening. And then this song comes through, and it's like, this is the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. It is safe, let her lead. And it keeps repeating. It's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. It is safe, let her lead. And I'm singing these words, not knowing what it means. And I'm thinking, what's the hardest thing? I mean, I feel like I've done it already. Like, I've already done it. Like, and I kept kind of saying, my human kept going, I've done it. Don't make me do anything else. Like, I was feeling that in that moment of, please don't make me do something else because this is enough. I've reached my limit. I've reached my max of going against the rules and, breaking the rules essentially. Do not make me do anything else. Well, it keeps happening. She keeps saying, and I start having these thoughts like, my human self and sort of, our conditioning was coming through like, what's so hard? Like, what is going to happen? Because I feel like I've already done such hard things tonight of pushing through all of these walls and making him angry. And I already feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so embarrassed to like have to tell Elizabeth that her dad, like all this happened. What else hard could I do? So what came through was like, am I going to die? Like, am I going to be sacrificed tonight?
Oh my God.
These are the human thoughts, right? That are coming through like, what's so hard? What could be so hard after what I've just done? All these things. I feel like I got the message. I got the journey. I got so much. What could be harder? And it keeps coming through. It's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. It is safe. Let her lead. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die. And I start negotiating with it. Like, my kids are going to be so sad, but it all starts to like make sense almost in that space. It all made sense. It was like, oh,
This is it.
it's going to be a sacrifice, but it's for the feminine. It was like for the feminine or for the masculine or for whatever the shift is that's happening on our earth. And it felt, and I started to see the astrology, and it was the Lionsgate portal. And it was the full moon at the end of the Lionsgate portal that I was in on that night. And it was all of a sudden it showed me like the astrology of what was happening that night. It was like, this has to happen on this night in this place for the divine. And divine energies and feminine and masculine and all of it, the shift that needs to happen. And so then I for sure was like, oh, I'm going to die. I'm gonna die.
Rational.
Yeah, so rational. I must be dying tonight, and this must be the sacrifice, and no one's going to understand, and it's so hard, but I totally get it. It just made sense. It was almost the ego death where I was like, okay, I'm not afraid. Whatever needs to happen, and it was like, this is such a bigger picture. I see now, like, it needed to sort of get to that place. And so I'm walking around the lodge at this point. And he's walking around the lodge and he's doing all this crazy, magic work and his altar, and he's got all the tools and he's doing all this work as I'm walking around singing. And then suddenly I feel my body turn to him, and he's across the room, and it goes, Ray, are you ready? Are you ready? So again, I'm thinking, I'm going to die. And I start running towards him, like moving towards him with my arms out. And it was so interesting because I couldn't see him. So my eyes couldn't actually see him. He was a black space. Wow. And it was as if, as I got closer, he got further away, like the image of him got further away. And I was like, this is so strange. It's not a big place, but it feels like I'm taking forever to reach him. And it was just a dark black image, visual. And finally I reach him and we interlock hands. And in that moment, we look each other like right in the eyes, and we're like, close holding hands. And all of a sudden it's like one of those flip books, like those cartoon flip books. And I see like, like a flash of like every version of the masculine you can imagine. I saw like a Mayan warrior. I saw like a businessman. I saw every race, every color, every size, every shape, every type you can imagine of a man. It was like, oh, I'm just seeing the masculine right now. I'm just holding hands with all of the masculine. This is what's being represented. And I'm, it's like the craziest experience, because I'm just like looking at him, and he's just looking at me in the same way, like, what is happening, Yeah. And then she continues, Ray, are you ready? And she starts singing like, I sing for Elizabeth. Are you ready? I sing for, are you ready? So she's bringing in like, I say she, the feminine energy, whatever was moving through me, it's she and me that's got it happening here, is bringing in, all of these other female energies in his life, in my life. I saw you were at my back. All of my, like, so many female teachers were at my back. I saw Mother Mary, I saw Mother Magdalene. Jesus was filling the space, which was so interesting. That was the only male deity that was coming through. And everything else was just this feminine, like, energy of every aspect of the feminine filling the space. And so I'm in front of him, holding hands with him, going, are you ready? Are you ready? And he's like, I'm ready. Like, what? Like, I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready. Just kind of like, what is going on? And what came through me next, I just look at him and I say, not me. The energy comes through me and says, kneel. Jeez. And in that moment, I was like, I would rather die. Yeah. I would rather have died. What just came out of my mouth?
That's terrible.
And I'm sobbing. I mean, my whole human body is like, no. What is happening? What is happening? Why? What am I doing? This powerful man, this, he's Portuguese, he's strong, he's this Latin man that's like, no. And I just said, kneel. I didn't ask. I demanded, or not me, but whatever this is. So I'm dying inside. And he looks at me and says, I will not do that. Oh my God. Of course, I'm like, oh my God. And I start to go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm crying, and I'm so sorry. Let her lead. So this starts happening and keeps happening, where if this were on video, it would be the most hilarious thing you've ever seen. Probably pretty powerful, but also hilarious. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What's happened? Let her lead. Like, I want to do a whole like stage opera show or something, because it was just hysterical but magical what was happening. But you could hear this, energy was coming through in song, and then my human was like, oh my God, what's happening? And anyway, so she keeps singing, let her lead. It's the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. It is safe. Let her lead. She keeps singing those three things. And in that moment, I was like, this is definitely for him. Wow. And he says he's here to foster in and call in the divine feminine shift that needs to occur, the divine feminine leadership that needs to be here on this earth. And he's here to do that. But I don't know if he really even understands what's happening and what that means to surrender. And my human's also going, why me? But I'm just seeing all of this, like, this, and I know whatever's coming through me isn't me. So I'm going, this is the divine energy telling him, like, kneel. And anyway, so he goes, I need a minute. He leaves the lodge, which, now I know, like, that doesn't really happen with a facilitator, a guide in the space, and totally. And I'm just singing. I'm just inside. I don't even know what happened in that time. And he comes back in and he grabs my hand and he kneels. Wow. And it was like a light show. All of a sudden it was like we were in this temple, and everything was gold, and everything was sparkling, and everything was like we were in a temple, is the best way I could explain it. And it was like, I don't even know what was happening in that moment, but the codes and the activations and the light that was moving through my body and his body and everything that was happening was just so strong and overwhelming and took us over. And then I knelt with him. Wow. And then we embraced, and we're both like shaking, and like it was like a sob almost, but and then it was and he's just holding me, and then I said, okay, we can release. And then we let go. Wow. And then this is where it gets so interesting, because then it was like fun entered the space. Mm. Lightness entered the space. Playfulness entered the space. We stood up, and at this point, he's fully surrendered. And I start dancing with him. We start dancing around the whole room. We're dancing, we're laughing, we're playing. We are having the time of our lives as if we're like kids. Wow. And we were giggly and like, what? I'm like, and we're like, what is happening? Like, this is amazing, and just this lightness is like upon us. And then suddenly, turn him, we must go to the pyramid. And so then he goes, let her lead. Wow. And he's completely transformed. The energy that he had been and had turned into was complete lightness, laughter, like playful energy. And he was like, let her lead. And so I'm like, okay. So we opened the lodge door, and I tell you, like, all I could see was black. And there are lights outside that light the way, but all I could see was black. And it was as if I was looking into the stars. It's like I could see stars beneath me. I was stepping into like a whole new universe or something. And it took me a really long time to step out, and he was waiting behind me. Like, he was waiting. He knew it was something big happening in that moment. Wow. And it took me a long time. Like, I had to really get courage. Like, this is going to take courage. And finally it was like, I stepped. And then as I stepped, a light would go on beneath me, like beneath my foot. So I could see. So I stepped on something, and then I'd step, and then I'd step. And so he's coming with me, right? So then we're like arm in arm. And there's like a path that you're supposed to take to the front of the house. Well, she didn't want to do that. Oh my gosh. She wanted to go through the forest. And so I go, we're going to the pyramid. And he goes, no, it's this way. And she goes, no, we're going this way. Oh, and so we start to go the other way, and we are barefoot, going through wooded, mountainous, like, like there's not been any landscaping done. This is untamed land. And we're marching through it, and he's just giggling. I mean, he's like, he's like, we can't go this way, but okay. And so we're both, and at one point it's like, what are we doing? I don't know. This is so funny. And we keep going, and he goes, no, it's kind of dangerous this way. We can't go this way. There's a cliff. We're going this way. She led us to the pyramid. And I'll tell you, when I saw it the next day, I went, how did we even make it? Like, it was crazy how we got there, right? And so we go to the pyramid, and once again, it was like, dun dun. Like, we were outside the circle of the pyramid looking at it, and he starts saying prayers. I start hearing prayers coming through me, and Shekinah, Shekinah, anchor in the light, Shekinah. And so we're just doing these prayers. We together walk as if we're walking down an aisle, like together. It was like step, 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 like this. Like, we're in step, so slowly approaching the pyramid. We get to the pyramid, he kneels down. And my body was not my body. And I just start to see myself climbing the pyramid. Oh my God. Climbing the pyramid. There's just barely any like little ledges in it. I'm climbing the pyramid, and the top of it is a point like this, like the sharpest point. It's like those crystals we have that are triangles. The point at the top is that. I climb to the top of the pyramid. I turn around. I don't know how I'm doing this. He's got one hand supporting me. I don't know how I'm doing this. Obviously, he's also under full surrender, because the fact that he even was like, okay, I'm fine with this. It's crazy. And I turned around and I put the pyramid point on my back and I just,
That
like,
is wild.
it was as if, I don't even know what it was. I don't know what it was. It felt like a feminine, sacrificial visual, or I don't know. And all I could see was the full moon. And I just saw the whole light of the moon come through my body, into the pyramid, into the land, into the earth. Wow. And it just felt like light beams going back and forth. And then that was it. It just went quiet. And it was like, okay, I get up from the pyramid, come back down. He helps me down. We start to walk. And then I suddenly go, and I look up and I can see the second story of his house. And I see his wife like wave from the top floor. And I say, we must go to Melanie.
Oh my gosh.
And, it's 2, 3, 4, I don't know what time in the morning at this point. And he goes, let her lead.
Oh my God.
By the way, she didn't wave.
Yeah,
She
I
was
didn't
not
think
awake.
so.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Her soul waved.
100%.
It wasn't her. So for his experience, he's going, my poor wife is asleep in her bed, but let her lead. So we go into his house. I tell him, no, I must lead. I take him up to his bedroom. And she's sitting on the bed at this point. She heard us come in. And he said, honey, we're coming up.
Oh my God.
And she's sitting on the bed and she's just got her arms, and she goes, hi, honey. And I just fell into her arms.
Oh.
And she goes, do you want to lay down together? And I said, yes. And I'm sobbing at this point. It's like almost like my human's coming back into form and everything. It was like, as soon as I saw her, I could just be back. And she says, let's go to this bed hurts my back. Let's go. And so we go to the guest room and we lay in the bed and we're like two little kids. And I'm telling her everything that happened. And as I'm telling her everything that happened with her strong husband, who, I'm sure there's dynamics I have no idea about, she's going, you what? You asked him to what? He did what? And she's going, oh my God. Like she's just like beside herself. And she's like going, I could have never done that. And she just keeps going, thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you for doing this work for all of us. And so we're just having this whole integration in that moment. And it was, our legs were entwined. We were family. It was like she was, it was beautiful. It was, I don't feel comfortable doing that with
Totally
anyone, but a woman or any, but
Yeah.
it was, we knew each other. And it was like sister, it was like we were siblings or family, right? And so I tell her everything, and then I go, oh, by the way, this chant, what does it mean? Shekinah, Shekinah. And she's like, I don't know. And she goes, let's Google it in the morning.
Oh,
and we start
my
laughing,
gosh.
and we're going, oh my God. So we're giggling. And she goes, you know what? And so you're supposed to sleep in the lodge. It's
Yeah.
kind of part of the journey. And so I had already been like, I'm sleeping alone in the lodge. Like it's, far from the house, whatever, but okay, like I'll do what I need to do. But she just goes, you're gonna sleep here tonight. And so I slept in the guest bed. It was like so warm and snuggly.
Aww.
And so I go to lie down, I go to sleep, and it won't stop. It's just like the energy's just so, you can imagine what was pulsating through my body. And I finally just go, okay, I promise I won't forget this. I promise I will return to this space, but please, please, please let me sleep. And all of a sudden it was like lightning. It felt like a lightning bolt came through and went like lights out. Wow. Like the lights went out. And I just immediately went to sleep. It was just like like that. I immediately went to sleep. And all this time my phone's been off, right? Completely off, like not on airport mode, just off. And so I go to sleep. Next thing I know, I wake up and I am having like, what happened? Like a feeling of that dread, like what happened last night? What did I do? What happened? What is going on? And I turn on my phone, and as my phone goes on, it's 8:57 a.m. And that's the time I was born.
Oh,
and it's my it's my time. Like I know when I see that, it's like a sign. And I was like, oh my God, it's 8:57 a.m. And I just went, thank you, God. Like, thank you for showing me that I'm okay. Like, it's okay. Everything's like happening here for a reason. And then the first thing I do is Google, and I spelled it really weird. Like, I don't even know how I spelled it. CHAK, like something hysterical. Like Shekinah. And like, what is Shekinah? And then the definition popped up, and it says the divine feminine aspect of God.
Yes. Yep.
And I just went, what? And I know we've studied goddesses. We've studied, I didn't know that one. Like I didn't hear that one, or it just wasn't in my consciousness that I knew of, that I was aware of. And so then I was like, oh, whoa. And so I come out, they say it's time for integration, and we go up, and we are integrating, and I tell them, and, they're also just, whoa. Again, man of very few words, but he just was like, wow. And then she's talking more because, I had already kind of integrated with her that night, and she wasn't supposed to be an integration, but because of everything, she was part, and he said, of course, honey, you were part of the journey, as you always are. And you were here in the room. And because her altar all night was just lit up. The altars come to life, and it was just lit up the whole night. And so then she says, I know we are sisters, and we've been together many lifetimes. We've been together a long time. And, my whole name to calling myself Rose was this magical experience that would be a whole different podcast. But it came to that name Rose, and she said, I was given a last name, and I have had a hard time owning it because it almost feels embarrassing. And she said, but it's Magdalena. And it was like, oh my God, we're sisters. And then he really said very little. And then he just, at one point, I'm sitting in a chair and they're on the ground. And at one point he just goes, I just want to say to you, what you did last night, everything that happened and everything you did was so courageous. And I just started.
Oh. That's crazy. Something just fell out of nowhere.
Something just fell out of nowhere. Hi energies.
Wow.
I started sobbing. Like the first time I was just sobbing. And he was like, it was so brave. And he said, and I understood, finally I understood what was happening. And so, it doesn't end there. Of course, I go home, I have a session with his daughter, and I'm sweating bullets. Like, how is she going to feel about this? What is going to, but at this point I knew it was magic, And so I go in and I tell her the whole story as I just told you, but the whole time, and then your dad. And when I got to the part of asking him to kneel, she turned white.
I'm sure.
She turned white and was just, her eye, it was like a deer, like, what? And then when I told her he knelt, she about passed out. And she said what must have happened, in between is he checked in with his guides of the purity 100%. Of what was happening. And they must have said, kneel, let her lead. And she was just blown away. We sat almost in silence for a while and just felt the buzz of like energy coming through and activations. And then our session was ending and she goes, I'm going into my own session right now for me. And all it's going to be is integrating your journey.
Wild.
With my dad, because what you went through actually was also for mine and his relationship.
Oh, wow.
And and after that, things unfolded for them where she felt what happened in my journey told her he was ready for the healing that she needed to do with him. And so it was just full, so many things happened that night. And the Shekinah, you know, now we know this goddess, divine feminine, is also closely related to the Kabbalah, to Kabbalism. And so it took me to the Kabbalah Center. I was called to like discover, what is this all about? What are the teachings of the Kabbalah? And so I went to this music and meditation night. And while I was there, I had the full, in an hour of sound bowls and meditative music, Kabbalistic meditative music, the energy came back. Wow. And it basically came back in and it said, I just want to show you that you don't have to be overtaken by this. Like we can do, it's a dance. We can dance, you know, and you still have control, like of your body, and I can be here. And it was just like this integration happening in that moment. And when he asked us to share, this woman sitting next to me, and we were partnered, and so we were sharing, and I said, you know, it's interesting what happened to me just now. I had this activation come through me, and I said, I was led here because I had an activation, and I just explained it that way. And she just stopped, and she put her hand on my leg, and she goes, I had the activation. I had an activation. That's what led me here. And she's like, you were activated. And she was, you know, talking about Kundalini and all the things. And she's like, this is what you've got to do, you know. And it was just this moment of, whoa, all the magic that was created from that. And that's why I wear this red thread. And and so there's another whole, you know, episode of that led me to, I mean, so many things. And with plant medicine, it was also very much like, don't try to re-enter that space. It's almost like people can do that, like chase the dragon in plant medicine. It's like I got so much. And every time I would feel the pull of anything, it would just be like, no, you've already gotten it. You've already gotten it. Come back. And so that the integration of that night, well, I mean, it could take a lifetime, but was so big. And then the following year, I went up to Mount Shasta and I facilitated alongside him as his apprentice. And so, sort of, I call it my shaman initiation.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute.
Sort of got my initiation, but that was a whole, and I saw when I did that with him that my journey the year before was a preparation for what I did that night in ceremony and helped facilitate that night in ceremony. So it was just like, it's so divinely connected in so many ways. And it's still, you know, unfolding. And what I saw that night were the structures were under. I almost felt like it was the Russian stacking dolls. You know, those Russian stacking dolls? It felt like, okay, like he told me not to sing, I'm going to sing. And then I did that, but then he was like, okay, that's all. Like, it was like the structure was like, that's all though, that's all. And then she was like, no, we're breaking through the next one. And then it was like the next one, and it was like, oh, you're standing up now. Okay, that's all though, that's all though, right? And it just kept breaking the structure after structure until we're at the pyramid, until I'm in bed with his wife. That sounds terrible, but you know, like every structure that could have been broken that night. And I kept thinking, I'm done. And I'm like, oh, that's what's happening in the world. We keep thinking, oh, we've gotten to this place. And then like another almost invisible structure is in place that you didn't realize is keeping you from being free. Yeah. Fully free. And so as I've been integrating, I've been seeing so much of that and so many of the patterns in me and all of us that don't let us be fully free. The rules, the structures that have kept us safe or comfortable, that we're like, oh, but not that. Yeah. Like I could go this far, but I can't do that, you know? Right. So that's the story.
That is just mind-blowing and incredible and gorgeous. And when you felt that ego disintegration, like how did you get through that? Like, I think that's so brave to tell him to kneel and doing all those things where you have that ego on the side of you and things like
the human with
what came through you to be able to do that in that energy? Like,
I mean, it wasn't, it was, she came through, the spirit came through. Yeah. So, you know, everything was let her lead. And so human ego was going, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happening, let her lead. So it was like, what happened was I surrendered.
Amazing.
I surrendered.
How did that feel?
Free.
Yeah.
Free. Like complete freedom.
How have you taken this into your current life?
I mean, I'm still integrating, and it's been years, but you know, I got my initiation. Like I felt the call to go deeper into the medicine from that perspective. And it's in a way that I don't, it's not that something like I'm offering to, to everyone or as a part of my, it's something that as it arises, it will be as exactly as it needs to be. But I knew that was just something to bring in. But the bigger thing for me was it's integrated in me now without the medicine.
Yeah.
And it's integrated in my work for other people, for my clients and for those that I serve without the medicine. And so what's so beautiful is I'm seeing like the energy, the activations, even in telling the story, I had 3 different people pass out.
That's wild.
Pass out. Like
wow.
Have to catch themselves from receiving whatever activation was coming through just the story. And so the understanding of like those codes that we can activate within ourselves without the need for anything outside 100%. Of ourselves. Just opening the vessel, opening the channel, opening to spirit, opening to the gut, whatever is coming through. Like it was divine feminine energy. It wasn't psilocybin energy, 100%. Right? It was psilocybin removed the ego, removed what needed to be removed. Although such a part of my journey was the ego being there and watching that battle, but removed that in order for the energy to come through and to show me what that really was like.
Oh, I love that.
And so now it's just like an up leveling of in my work. You do this every day, 10 times a day, but in my work of just going, let her lead.
I adore
and just
that.
going, opening the vessel and letting it come through me instead of worrying about it being right, wrong, or from me. Because it's not from me.
Gorgeous.
We're just the vessel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the importance of, the let her lead for me became more and more about not like the feminine needs to lead the masculine, because I think that there's a dance and there's always a dance. I do think feminine leadership can be so profound and so needed in so many ways. But it wasn't like, oh, the feminine needs to be leading the masculine. It wasn't about that. It was let her lead, like our intuition, which is spirit, which is God talking to us. Let her lead. So whenever I'm like, I don't know what to do, I don't know, it's let her lead. Like just go in, and just little like gut feelings or punches or directing you in certain ways. Like we know.
So good.
We know. So let her lead.
So good.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a transformation in the world during your ceremony. Like it feels like the grid of the earth just lit up that night too through that portal.
Oh my God. It was, and I saw, I don't feel like I'm like the second coming or anything. It wasn't like that. Like even in the I'm gonna die, like I didn't think I was Jesus or but I saw that night, like this is happening. This is not, it wasn't just there. It was happening. But that place was important.
Yeah.
And it was happening everywhere. And that place was really important for it to happen that night in that spot. And it was happening across the world, it felt like, in that astrology. And like a shift occurred in that time period. Not just with me, but with so many things that were happening. It felt, and and the fact that I was reopening, my journey was reopening their space. They were like, well, we are activated. We are ready. It's been opened. The records are now open. The space is now open.
For sure. That's amazing. I'm sure it just called so many souls to that place too. Like I feel like I was there the whole time, if that makes sense. Like I feel part of the ceremony.
You were. I mean, you were absolutely. I mean, you cut through the clutter in the beginning for me. It was like I needed the safety your
That
energy
makes sense.
of full trust, you know,
Yeah.
because you're in those beginning phases and you're still a little scared.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, Kimber's, you know,
Aw.
I'm safe. And then you were at my back, and so many, you know, all of the women, all of the powerful feminine energy in my life, from family to friends to teachers,
crazy.
were in that space.
And it feels part of divine union. It feels part of the union between the masculine and feminine too. Like just the way you're interacting with him and you guys playing these roles to bring that balance back.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So good.
And then it felt like such a pivotal moment. And, you know,
Cool. So cool. Oh my gosh, that's such a great story. It's riveting. And thank you so much for sharing this. It's just, I was on the edge of my seat, even though I've heard it before. So good. It was great to hear it in its complete entirety, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for, I knew, it's interesting because I've told little bits of it to different people or different groups or different programs I'm doing, like, hey, like messages of, these are some messages. But I haven't really, and the second you said, you know, you're doing this podcast and you said, do you want to tell your story? It was like, yes. Immediately.
So speaking of let her lead, you're having a group in February, right?
I am. In February 2025, I am having a 4-month group where we will go into a lot of the activations that came through in my journey and also all of the tools, you know, that I've learned along the way. And it's called Holy Shift.
Amazing.
And it's with a WH, and really it is a whole shift into full alignment with who you came here to be and what your soul came here to do, and that divine energy that is always guiding us and within us. So,
so good.
So exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We will link Cari's info in the information box so you can.
Yes.
And what's your website?
CariRose.com.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Veil. Please like, subscribe, and share so we can grow our channel. If you have a story you would like to share, please email nandipresents@gmail.com. If you're interested in classes or personal sessions, please visit nandi.co, Nandi.co, and have a magical day.